Hi there, and welcome to the Homestead Education Podcast. Do you have a homestead, a farm, or maybe just believe we have a right to the freedom of wholesome food? This is a show for families who believe everyone deserves an agricultural education to understand their food, land, and responsibility at a scale that fits real life. I'm your host, Kody Hanner. I'm a homesteader, a homeschool mom of 6, and an agricultural educator who spent years teaching families how to build real skills outside of broken systems. I was raised by an old school rancher and blessed by the grace of God to have been shaped by small town life, where food, work, and responsibility weren't dreams, they were just how you lived. This season, we're digging into how accessible small-scale agricultural education can build capable people, strengthen local food systems, and create meaningful change far beyond the homestead. Join me each week as we talk about food systems, education, and the real-world skills every generation needs, taught in ways that actually make sense. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Homestead Education Podcast. Today, I have Kacee Bohle with me from the AgriMinds Podcast, and her and I have been getting to know each other quite a bit over the last few weeks, discussing all things ag and homeschooling and running our businesses. And so I'm really happy to have her on today to just share all that she has. So thank you for being here, Kacee.
Hello. Thank you, Kody, so much for having me on today.
Do you want to tell everyone a little bit about what you do and all the things, you know?
Well, there are several hats. I don't know if we have enough time for all of them.
That's why I'm just letting you go, that way I don't have to remember them all.
Yes. Well, first and foremost, I am a mom of 2, and right now I have a 9-year-old and a 3-year-old. We are in West Central Indiana. I also have my own business. I'm a coach, speaker, and trainer. And then I also work with my parents on our family farm during the busy seasons. And I think I have my own podcast. We also homeschool. So yeah, like I said, I have so many hats, I forget what all I do, but it's just life for me. So at this point, it's like, well, what all do I do? And I think a lot of your listeners can probably relate to that we're just showing up trying to get by some days and feeding our families while also trying to fill our cups up, and helping other people do that is something that I enjoy as well.
That's awesome. I'm sitting here thinking about it. I'm like, it sounds like my life. I do all the things. I'm surprised we've had a chance. This is our 3rd chat now. I'm like, how did this even happen?
I know. I had to remember what do I do for a living again? Because it's all a blur some days.
Some people, it's as silly as I go into a doctor's appointment and you're like, they do all the, is this still your address? Is this still your phone number? And they're like, and then what is your occupation? And I'm like,
Or they'll ask me what's your daughter's date of birth? And I'll say my son's birthday. And I was like, oh, right. Wrong kid. Hang on.
We have 6 kids and 2 of them have the same first name. So
that's hilarious. I feel for you.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm always like, I never know what to tell people I actually do for a living. I'm like, I'm a serial entrepreneur.
Yes. I love that.
Or sometimes it's entrepreneurial ADHD, but that's when they ask me what's wrong with me. So
you don't want to know at this point.
Right. Just so many things. So tell us a little bit about, you said you do all the things, but I'm really intrigued with your path of the AgriMinds. Because I think as so many of us who have either grown up in farming or are trying to get into farming, there's a lot of mindset work that goes into that. Especially the old time farmers, not happening.
Yeah, it's a really interesting story, one that I never saw coming, to be honest with you, Kody. I grew up on a 4th generation row crop farm, which we grew corn and soybeans here in Indiana. And I was one of 4 daughters, and I always thought, I'm going to grow up to be the farmer. I'll be the one that takes over the farm. No brothers, none of my sisters wanted anything to do with the farm. And honestly, I felt like it was my responsibility to take over the farm, because if I didn't, then who would? And right. I just didn't really want to see our family farm ending because I didn't do it. And I don't know, I kind of just put that responsibility on my own shoulders. So I went to school, got a degree in agriculture business economics, came back home to the farm and worked during the summer right after college. And then comes, like June, July timeframe, and there wasn't really anything going on. We had already gotten everything planted. We had just wrapped up spraying. And I was like, well, what do I do now? Like we don't really have anything going on till harvest. And my dad sent me to our local John Deere dealership to get some parts for the sprayer. And while I was in there, I overheard them saying they were looking for a parts person. And so I ended up convincing them to give me a job. And so started working for John Deere at that point and farming. So during harvest, I would work all day at the dealership and then I would come home, I'd jump in the tractor and we would do all the things. And I would just do that 7 days a week for, 2 months. And I did that for about 3 years and it was exhausting. And I finally was just like, surely this isn't like, is this what I'm going to do for the rest of my life? I mean, I wasn't married, didn't have kids, but I was working my life away. And I was like, this is not what I thought this was going to be.
I was working like 50, 60 hours a week and then going and like driving an hour and a half to the family farm every weekend to ranch and work as a hunting guide where you're,
Yes.
up at 3 a.m. and literally run on like your feet, until nighttime. And yeah, I thought I was gonna die. Like,
It's exhausting. And I mean, I had in my mind something painted a lot differently than what I was living. I mean, I thought that coming back home to the farm was going to be a little bit more enjoyable because when you're growing up and you're riding in the buddy seat and you're seeing the fun parts of the farm versus now I'm in it and changing grease zerks and breaking chains and hydraulic hoses and all the things. It's just a whole different experience than what I was thinking. And I wasn't getting paid what I thought I, would be getting paid. And so it's like, well, that's what happens when you're on a family farm, but I didn't have anybody to talk to about that. So then I'm at the point where I'm 22-ish years old at that time. And I'm like, surely there's more for me out there. And the guy that I was dating in college, who's now my husband, we had broken up after I graduated because I was like, I'm not doing the long distance thing, right? Like, he's from St. Louis, I'm from Indiana. Like, I'm just not going to do that. We ran into each other again in January of 2015. And I was like, what do I do about this? Because, like, I'm in love and he doesn't live anywhere near me. It's like, what do I do? And I just happened to get on John Deere's website and found a position really close to where my husband lived. And so I was like, I wonder if I can relocate. And I just throwing, darts at the wall blindfolded just to see where it landed. And I ended up getting offered a job to work for corporate John Deere. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to move me out to Missouri. I get to like go be with this guy that I'm in love with. Oh crap, that means I'm like, how am I going to farm though? And so I was at this crossroads where I was so exhausted from the farm, working for our dealership, but then also it's like, but I have like the love of my life over here. And it's like, what do I do? Do I give up the farm that I don't have a full-time place in? That I'm just kind of like I'm the low man on the totem pole right now. Like, what do I do? And I really had a pivotal moment of I can continue down this path or I can start one that looks really freaking scary and go down here. And so I did. I had a long conversation with my dad and I was like, listen, I got this job opportunity that's going to move me to Missouri. It's going to be an amazing opportunity for my career. However, I'm feeling really strange leaving the farm. Like, you guys don't have a full-time place for me. I'm working my tail off. This is exhausting. I'm burnt out. I don't feel like I fit in. Like, is there ever going to be a chance for me to take over the farm? Like, is there going to be a farm there when it's time for me to there was so many questions up in the air. And so he basically sat me down and he's like, right now there's not a full-time spot for you. Like, grandpa was still alive and they only needed me during the busy season. And he's like, John Deere can offer you retirement funds. They can give you PTO, steady income, company vehicle, opportunities, a career that we can't give you on our farm. go try it out for a couple years. And when you're ready to come back home, we'll be here. So I did. My husband and I moved out to Missouri. I was living like this amazing life. It was like the picture perfect career. Like if I can't work on the farm, the next best thing would be to work for John Deere, right? There was so much
Right.
pride. And then I got pregnant.
It
And
happens.
unexpectedly, like I love my kids so, so much. However, that was not the timeline that I had in mind. And so I went from traveling, working this amazing job, making amazing money, and just really feeling fulfilled and like, okay, maybe I'm a career woman. Like I felt like I'd finally found this place for me. And then, life happens and I'm now going to be a mom. I'm not married. I'm 5 hours away from my parents and any of my
Mm.
friends. What do we do? And so my husband and I, we ended up getting married at that point and we're like, well, we're going to figure this out. So we stayed in Missouri for a couple of years and eventually, my career moved us back home to Indiana. And so we've been back in Indiana since 2019. So to answer your question around like how did I get into the job that I have now, which is my own business, is I was working for corporate America and I was trying to juggle being a working parent
Hmm.
alongside like how do I also support my parents on the farm? How do I also see aging grandparents and not having a succession place and plan while also like trying to just like, you know, eat healthy and exercise and be a good parent and be a good wife and just be a good human, right? Like there
Like
were so
sleep and
many
drink
things.
water.
Yeah, like I just was like trying to figure out how do we manage this?
Hmm.
And anytime I started talking about it with coworkers and things, it was very clear that that was not the time and place. It was kind of inappropriate to bring those types of things to the workplace.
Mm,
And
yeah.
then if I talked to my husband about it, he didn't really understand because he didn't have the same type of job that I did. And at that point, I was not only the bread winner, I was also the bread maker, right? Because the moment I walked back in the door after 3 days of travel for work, I would come home and I needed to catch up on all the laundry that didn't get done while I was out of town, catch up on all the dishes that didn't get done while I was out of town, make sure that this is done, make sure that that is done. Like, and I just felt like nothing was getting done while I was gone. And so the moment I walked in the door, it was like full blown housewife mom life, right? And I was just
I
like,
feel like that's a really hard one in kind of the world that we're in right
yeah,
now. Is like my husband and I are both home, and sometimes I have to be very explicit about where the responsibility lies. Like,
yeah. And he didn't know. I mean, like,
yeah.
have you ever seen the breakup with Jennifer Aniston? And she's talking to her husband. She's like, I want you to want to do the dishes. And the
Yeah.
husband's like, why would I want to do the dishes? It's because I want you to want to do the dishes. That's why. Like, you should just know. But that's where I really started to figure out like the worst thing that can happen when you're communicating with somebody is making an assumption that it's happened.
Yeah.
And so I had to get really specific about what I wanted done and not
Hmm.
just assume
And like you said, it's
because
not that they don't
yes.
it's not that they don't want to support you as a spouse,
Yeah.
but if you don't make it clear,
Yeah. Well, and
yeah.
I grew up with my mom and my grandmother both being at home full time. The sole responsibility that they had was to take care of the kids and make
Hmm.
meals for the field. Maybe go do some parts runs, right? Like
Right.
that was the core of what they did. Now, obviously they helped out where they needed to, but that was kind of like the expectation is that they were responsible for the kids in the home. And then the
Hmm.
men were out in the fields doing the work, bringing home the bacon.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was wearing both of those hats. And
Hmm.
so my husband, on the other hand, grew up very Italian. His mother took care of him, his grandmother took care of him, and he didn't have to want for anything. Like there was always someone providing for him. And I think my husband is amazing. He's a hardworking man. We were just raised very
Hmm.
differently. Very differently. And so the expectations of what we expected of each other were very different. There was also this complex of this was never discussed. And if my husband listens to this, which I doubt he will, but if he hears this, I
Well,
hope
my
he
husband's
doesn't.
standing right outside the door, but I'm not sure his hearing aids are working, so.
But I just feel like I think he felt almost like emasculated that I was
Mhm.
bringing home the bacon, if you will.
No, I
And
understand that
so,
because my husband's a disabled
yeah.
vet. So
Mhm.
he is a stay-at-home dad, and I am the main breadwinner, even though, like, I mean, he gets, his base pay from the VA, and it's good. But the income that decides whether or not we get a vacation this year, or if a major bill comes up or whatever, it's completely on my
Yeah.
income. And our whole family has to work for my business, not my business, but to
Yeah.
make everything happen. And I think that that definitely is a weird shift for him.
Well, especially within the ag industry, right?
Hmm.
Like these are manly men that
Yes.
are proud of what they do and they're proud to take care of their families and they will do whatever they can to do that. And so there was this weird complex happening in our marriage. And this was also around the time of COVID. And
Mm.
so it
Like
was
nobody
like
knew what they were doing.
nobody knew what they were doing. And we were seeing so many things coming to light that I think when you're a new parent, you don't pay attention to because it's so busy.
Yeah.
And so when COVID happened, it kind of shined a light on areas, not only in our marriage, but in our family dynamic, both with my parents and within our own home, around like who we're talking to about what, who we're trusting, who, like, it was a thing. And so I was struggling. I mean, I felt like I was feeling guilty at work, I was feeling guilty at home. I was struggling with imposter syndrome. I was struggling with trying to like I wanted to step down from being the high, the person, the hierarchy. And I was like, I don't want to be up here anymore. I want you to
Yeah.
have that. And I just was like struggling because I'm like, but this way of thinking is how the traditional way of thinking has been in my family, yet the world, society is now telling me that women can do whatever they want and they can be these boss babes. And so it was like having this like struggle, this internal tug of war between I need to be this boss babe who's climbing the career ladder, but I also have this like really strong nudge to step down and give that to somebody else. And
Like you want to embrace your like traditional roles.
yeah, and I was like, what? Where's the balance? Where's the harmony in this? Because I love to work, but I also feel like I am better suited to nurture our family than my husband is in that particular way.
Hmm.
There is a female male difference here, and I just felt like I could provide something for my kids that my husband couldn't in that particular way. And I wanted to be home. It broke my heart more to miss my kids' Christmas carol, Christmas pageant than I think if my husband were to be away.
Uh-huh.
Not saying he didn't miss it and wanted to be there, but I think it affected me deeper than it would
Hmm.
have him. Like he knew he was away because he was providing for his family. Whereas me, I'm this mom who's not able to watch my children do their Christmas concert. And I couldn't stand that. So
Oh, I'm
anyway,
missing
yeah.
my high schooler's last prom this year because I'm gonna be at an
Oh,
event.
yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like heartbroken, and because I love doing my daughter's hair. She has just like beautiful long blonde hair and she's so cute. And she's like, "It's okay, mom, I don't need your help." And I was like,
That
"What?"
stings. I take that so personally. Yeah. And I mean, again, I didn't know who to talk to about it. And one of the defining moments for me was I was working for a different company at this point, and this was May of, no, this was, I don't remember when this was. It was sometime in like 2022. And still working for corporate America within the ag industry. And I remember my boss saying, like, hey, I sent out this email. I want you guys to vote on the best day of the week to have our weekly stand-up call. And I looked at the email, and every single day that was offered, it was at 7:30 in the morning. And I was like, can we not like find a different time? Like, I'm sorry, but that's like the exact time that I am trying to get my son. I only had one kid at the time. I was trying to get my son into the truck to drop him off at school. at 7:30, and I was like, I just don't. And every other week, a different person had to host that stand-up call. And I was like, I can't do it at 7:30. Like the weeks that I'm not hosting it, I can listen in, but I'll be driving down the road. And so just so you know, I'm not going to be available via camera, and I'm also not going to give you my full attention because my son's in the car, and that's the first conversation and interaction that he's going to have during the day. And that's me. And I'm in full-blown work mode right first thing in the morning. And it just didn't sit well with me. And I was not the only female on the call, but I was the only female that had young kids on the
Mm,
call. Everybody else on the call was an older male whose children were grown, my age, right?
yeah.
Or there was another woman on the call, but she hadn't had kids yet. And so I was
And I
like,
mean, I even feel lucky that I have teenagers because I can do like an early morning call,
yeah.
and I know that like the animals are still going to get fed and the little boys aren't going to be like burning the house down, you know?
Yeah, but you're with them the majority of the rest of
Yeah.
that day, where I was dropping them off, going to work, and then I wasn't going to see them again until 5:30 that afternoon,
Mm,
that evening, right? And so
yeah.
it just felt really odd to me. And I had said something to that boss, and I said, that's a non-negotiable for me. I will not be able to attend at 7:30 in the morning. That was a boundary I set, and it was really scary to say, like, you guys can continue to have that call. I'll watch the recording, but I will not be joining live because I'm going to give that time to my kid. And he didn't like that. And
Mm,
I heard a lot of balking from the other people on the team saying, like, well, that's the best time to do it is before we start the day. I'm not gonna, have a stand-up call at 9 a.m. And I'm like, I don't care. That's a non-negotiable for me. And there was some thoughts around that, right? So
right.
anyway, then a couple months later, I found out I was pregnant with my youngest, and I don't know what happened internally, but I began feeling like I need to get away from corporate America. And I had been giving advice, if you will, online. Like I had like a Facebook group. It was like before Facebook groups were really cool. I had a Facebook group, and it was for people within agriculture who wanted to talk about personal and professional development, which was like unheard of at that point. People were not talking about personal growth at the same time as they were talking about professional development. Those did
Oh,
not
yeah.
exist in the
When I
same
was working
conversation.
in corporate ag, yeah, it
Yeah.
was you just fell right into place with everybody else who
Yeah.
like you
Here's
would
your professional development plan. Yes.
like, agriculture, we see it more as a family like industry, but when you're actually working in the corporate world, like I was working for a huge co-op of like different commodities in California, and like I have an autistic son, and I got told if I got one more call from the school about my autistic son that I wouldn't have a job.
That's illegal, isn't it?
I'm
You
pretty sure it
can't do
is.
that.
But his school was like literally a mile away, and maybe once a week I'd have to adjust what time my lunch hour was to go like kind of do the little things he needed, like maybe a change of clothes or something like that, you know? And I was just like, that was kind of like, I felt that because I was like, where can I be a human and your employee, you know?
Yeah. And again, I felt like I couldn't talk to my coworkers about how they were balancing it, couldn't talk to my spouse about it, couldn't talk to my parents about it because they've only farmed, they've never worked for corporate
Hmm.
America. So I was like, who do I talk to about this? So I tried to find a community or the tribe, right? Like back then it was like find your tribe. So I was trying to find my tribe. I couldn't find my tribe. So I was like, I'm going to create the tribe. So I created this Facebook group, and we're having these conversations, and I get these messages all the time of people are like, well, what would you say about this? How would you handle that? What would you think about this? And I was like, that's so strange because I was the one who created this event or this group because I needed help with these topics. So now all of a sudden these other people were like, okay, well, what do you think? And I'm like, I mean, I'll give you my advice about what I think, but like just know I'm not the expert here. I came here for the same thing. And I eventually felt like, this feels really good to be that person for somebody else. Even if I don't have it all figured out, it feels really good to be able to help somebody else. Even if I don't have the answer, if I can just be a place to listen and ask them really good questions that would then help them answer the question in the way that they needed, because there's no cookie cutter here. What's the best thing that that person particularly needed? That felt really good. And I didn't know it at the time, but that was what coaching was. And so somebody had said that to me. They're like, why won't you monetize that? And I was like, what do you mean? How would I monetize people asking me for my opinion? They're like, you should be a coach. You should start a coaching business or a consulting business. And I was like, what's the difference? And so then I learned the difference between coaching and consulting, which there is. And there's even a difference between coaching, consulting, and counseling. And so when I explain this to people, again, because I didn't know the difference. Consulting is when somebody, asks you for your opinion and you give them a solution and you're partially responsible for the outcome, sometimes fully responsible for that outcome. A counselor is more so somebody who says, hey, here's something you've gone through, and I will be that person to help you heal that wound. And then a coach is somebody who's like, hey, I'm going to take into consideration what you've gone through, but really help you focus on where you want to go with this. And I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm going to ask you really good questions, and I'll be here and encourage you and support you and kind of hold you accountable to get the result you want. And you are fully responsible for the wins and the losses, because, this was your decision to make. And so I started looking into coaching, and I went through Maxwell Leadership. So John Maxwell has a coaching and training business. So I became a certified leadership coach through Maxwell Leadership, and I really loved it. However, there were a lot of things that needed to be tweaked to speak the language of those in agriculture and understand the intricacies and all of the different layers that come with working across generations that are family. Having generational conditionings and the culture and the debt and the, all these different things. It was just super intricate. And there's just different things within the agriculture industry that you might not experience in other industries. And so I took the leadership tools and resources and training that I got, and I applied it to agriculture. And I used verbiage that was familiar with those in ag. And so what I did was I said, you know what?
If you don't speak the language, you're out.
I hear this all the time with people who are like, I hired a counselor or a therapist to help me through with this, but I spent the entire session trying to help them understand my role or the agriculture industry, that I never actually got what I needed out of that session. And so a coach who has a specialty in agriculture is somebody who can help you with that. And that's what I built my entire business around. And it started off with AgriMinds Live, which is a 12-week group coaching program. So I took all of my favorite tools, all of my favorite topics and resources, and I combined it into one 12-week program, and I tailored it all to agriculture. And that started my entire business. And I've been doing this
so awesome.
4 years now. So yeah, it's been amazing.
So what kind of things do you do? I'm thinking of all these questions and ideas while you're talking. Now I'm like, I want to ask them all.
Yeah.
So what kind of
Okay,
things do you do in your group coaching? Because when people come to you, what are they seeking?
So again, the place I like to hang out is the crossroads of personal and professional, because I feel like majority of the time you're either talking about your personal stuff or you're talking about your professional stuff. Well, we know that we are one human being, and it's hard to separate the two. So I like to hang out at those crossroads. And so I really have built my entire business, all of the programs. Anytime I do a keynote, anytime I do a training or work one-on-one with people, there's 4 key areas or pillars that I frame everything around, which is time mastery, boundaries, leadership, and mindset. And so those can obviously go out further into subcategories, but those are the 4 things, because we're always trying to figure out where and when we should be somewhere, right? Like, we're trying to master our time. How do we be more productive? How do we optimize our time? Where should I spend this time, right? Then that leads into boundaries of, well, I know I want to be here, but how do I make that happen? I need to be where my feet are with my clients, but then I also need to be home and where my feet are when I'm with my kids and my husband, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so then that leads into, okay, well, that shows up in your mindset. Where, like, what do you believe? And so we talk about thoughts and feelings and actions and results and how they all are just this big cycle. And so we talk about mindset around worthiness. We talk about mindset around money, what love means, what does productivity and success mean? And then that turns into communication, right? We talk about communication a lot and communicating the boundaries, communicating the expectations, communicating your feelings towards something, which again is kind of like this, oh, we don't talk about feelings in ag. But
Right?
honestly, it's the driving force to what so many people in agriculture do. Because if you didn't feel something like passion or pride in what you were doing, you wouldn't be doing it. And so I talk about
Mm-hmm.
how to get really clear and intentional about how you're feeling around something. And then that will filter into leadership, both of self and of others. Because if we can't lead ourselves well, how can you expect to lead others well? And if you can't lead others well, then that is what is then going to turn into how we're teaching not only our employees, but showing up and having this ripple effect into what our kids are doing, how our communities are handling things. I mean, it's just huge ripple effect. So those
Mm-hmm.
are core areas, but like I said, we break that out into 12 weeks. We talk about it as a group, so you'll get a little bit of coaching that way, and then you'll also get the trainings and the resources and the tools too. So it's pretty awesome, and I've done 6 rounds. Right now I'm getting ready to start the 7th round. So we've done this almost 7 times, and it's been so different every single time.
That is so cool. I mean, I was sitting here thinking about it myself, and I'm like, wow, like I need this. But
Come on in.
right? And I think it's a lot of people, whether they're not involved in agriculture or they are involved but don't know how to articulate it, is there's so much, I don't know, like people talk about the depression in agriculture and the stress with the finances and the obligations of the multi-generational stuff and the obligations of how the system, works with, the loans and the commodities and, all of it, like the pressure that comes with all of that. But if you ask a single one of them, besides their identity and their family traditions, there's nothing else they would want to do because that's exactly where they want to be. So like I can imagine, I mean, I'm not working in corporate ag anymore. I'm not working as a large farmer, but I even with myself, I get burnout. And then someone's like, "Well, why don't you just not do it anymore?" And I'm like, well, that that doesn't even compute for me.
Yeah.
So
Well, and something I tell people a lot because you can't just stop farming a 5 generation farm. I mean, you
no.
can, but it's just a little bit more complex than that. And so what I always tell people, like, burnout can happen to anyone. It is not biased in any way, shape, or form. Like, it
Hmm.
does not take into consideration anything. Burnout can happen to anybody at any time. But here's what I always tell people. I don't believe that burnout comes from doing too much work because I love to work.
Right.
And if I'm
Yeah.
doing work that lights me up, I'm probably not going to get burnout. Where I think burnout comes from is doing too much of the wrong thing at the wrong time.
Not getting like the results from the work that you're willing to do. Like I
Yeah.
feel that one because like I've gone through recently a season of life where I was no joke working close to 20 hours a day and would not have changed that, but I felt like I was banging my head against the wall because the results that I needed from that 20 hours of work a day were not coming.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, again, sometimes we can't change. Like financially, it doesn't make sense for me to just leave my job because
Right?
I'm burnt out. Like I need to have a different plan, an exit strategy. I can't just leave my job. Or maybe there are other things to consider. It doesn't make sense for me to stop doing this. So how do I combat this burnout knowing that I can't change the factors? Well, what can you change? You can change how you're viewing that. And so
Hmm.
that's why mindset is a big piece in this because it doesn't always make sense to leave. Right now, I'm burnt out. At the end of every single planting season, at the end of every single harvest, we get burnt out, right? But those are
I don't even
seeds.
know if it's burnout, it's exhaustion.
And I also think that that's key too, is like accurately naming how are you actually feeling? Because it
Yeah.
could just be exhaustion, it could just be stress, it could just be like whatever. Is it actually burnout? And so I challenge people to really accurately name
Hmm.
it. But then also it's like, well, how are you viewing it? And sometimes just your perception and like looking through a new lens and seeing what you have accomplished, looking at what you are grateful for, what is going well can sometimes be the game changer. And just something as simple as that. But I don't think we've ever been taught that. And if we were, I don't remember when or where. And so that's really the core of what I talk about is okay, maybe we can't change the circumstances, but what can I change? And I can change how I'm looking at things. And so that's where the work begins. That's what I focus on.
That, yeah, that's, I think just so many people need to be able to identify that. Something else when it comes to burnout that we were talking about a little bit before, and that, I mean, is a massively changing thing in like across the country and a lot rurally, is homeschooling. It's how do we fit homeschooling into our farming schedules? Moms who are listening who are like, I would just love to come home and work the family farm and homeschool the kids, but how do we make that all work?
It was so scary the day that I turned my 2 weeks notice in because here's the thing, I didn't plan on homeschooling when I left corporate America. I
Hmm.
left corporate America and I was going to go all in on my business. And I was so just like, okay, I'm gonna give all my time and attention. My 9-year-old, which he was 6 at the time,
Hmm.
was going to public school and I had just had my youngest. So she was like, 12 weeks old or something like this because I just came off of maternity leave and handed my 2 weeks notice in. And so when I handed that notice in, I was scared to death about owning a business and my income solely coming from the work that I do and not having this backup steady income. I couldn't depend on that, right? Like it was me. With thankfully my husband was employed and had benefits. So that was the big thing there too, is like he had health insurance, right? And so I wasn't planning on homeschooling. So this was May of 2023 that I left my job and went all in on my business that I had been, kind of like moonlighting with for a year. And I'm not kidding. It was because that was the beginning of May. And then the end of May, we were wrapping up school. So my son was second grade, and it was the last week, or no, it was 2 weeks till the end of school. And I get a call from the principal, and she goes, just so you know, Hudson has a 2-day out of school suspension because he got in a fight with another kid. And I was like, oh my gosh. I said, what happened? And she goes, well, he pushed another kid and that is zero tolerance. We're not going to deal with that. La da 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 da. And he
Two
gets a
days for pushing?
2-day he's in second grade. He gets a 2-day out of school suspension. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And she goes, what do you mean? I've got to be kidding you that he has a suspension or that he pushed another kid? I said, hold on, both. And then she was like acting like it was my fault, like got defensive with me. And I was like, hang on. What actually happened? Who was the kid? And she couldn't tell me because of, confidentiality. And I'm like, was it his friend and they were just playing? Like, or was this a bully that like was beating up on him? Like, I want to know who it was. And she couldn't tell me that. And then I was also mad because a 2-day out of school suspension for a second grader feels a little over.
Extreme. Yeah.
Yeah. And then what was also really frustrating was it 2 weeks until the end of school, and every end of year, at the end of every school year, they have like this like field day. So all
Hmm.
the kids go outside and they just play games outside all day, and then they get a t-shirt. And of course he had to miss that because he was now suspended. And that was
Are
the
you
only
kidding
thing,
me? Oh
it was
my
the only
gosh.
thing they were looking forward to. And so I was just like, what? And so when I went to go pick him up, because I had to go pick him up, I had to drop what I was doing at like 11 a.m. on like a Tuesday. I had to drop what I was doing to go pick up this kid who now has an out of school suspension. And I looked her dead in the face and I said, Hudson won't be returning. And I yanked him out of school and I said bye. And I didn't know what that was going to look like. I wasn't planning on homeschooling. I had only been an entrepreneur for like a month at that time. And so I was like, oh God, I hadn't told my husband about it. I hadn't talked to my husband about it. But I was just so like shocked about how that was handled. And there was more to the story, but at the end of it all, I was just like, I'm going to homeschool him. I'm so over public school. I'm so over the threats of people calling CPS on me because my son has anger issues. No, he's getting bullied. He is standing up for himself and y'all don't like it.
I'm glad you even mentioned that because like I was talking about my autistic son. He had like a meltdown in class one day and they needed me to come get him and I was an hour and a half away grocery shopping because that's where our closest groceries were. It wasn't like I just dropped my kids off at school and took off for, to
Yeah.
the next county. And they're like, if you're not here within an hour, we're gonna have to have services come pick him up. And I'm like, I
That's so
can't. I was
frustrating.
standing in line at Costco. I'm like, am I supposed to just leave my cart and drive 90 miles an hour to get there? Like, what was I supposed to do? And it's just
And I
so,
think it's unfortunate though, because it's like we're in a small town. I know the majority of the
Mhm.
teachers because they're in our community. I know the families that go there. And it's like, had we just handled that a little different, had a conversation about it, I think it would have gone differently. However, I truly believe that that was a divine intervention and it was truly God's plan. So whatever needed to happen in order to get my children home with me had to happen. And so
Mhm.
I'm not bitter about the schools or the people because I truly think that that needed to happen. I needed
Yeah.
to be frustrated. I needed to be put in a position that caught my attention enough to fulfill God's plan for our family. And so over the summer, I kind of did like a test run of homeschooling and, pretended we were still in school. So my kiddo didn't have a summer. We just pretended it was school and we just kept on going. I was just teaching him. And I thought at the end of the summer, I've cooled down. I've thought this through. I've gotten rational here. And at the end of the summer, if I still feel like I need to keep him home, we've got a rhythm. I've purchased homeschool curriculum and we'll just keep him home. If not, then we'll send him back, right? Like,
Mhm.
whatever. We'll just cross that bridge. Well, come August, I was like, I'm keeping him home. Like, I have really enjoyed having him here with me. It is hard work. And then, wouldn't you know, my babysitter was like, oh, by the way, um, I'm not going to be babysitting anymore. So then at that point, almost, 6-month old was going to be home with me full time too. So here I am homeschooling my 6-year old at the time. I have a 6-month old, and I'm also building this business that is growing faster than I ever anticipated. And so I'm like, why? What does this mean? Why would you give me a thriving business and completely put me at capacity with clients? Like, thank you, but I don't get it. Why would you do that? What does this mean? And it was hard. I mean, I'll just be completely transparent. It's still hard. There are days where I'm like, should he go back to public school? Like, it would be easier, but I just know right now, in this season of our life, this is the right place for him to be, is home with me. My youngest does, so she's 3 now. She does go to like a Head Start 3 days a week for a couple of hours. So that's when I do get, time to do podcasts or work with my clients. And then on Mondays and Fridays when she's home, then I can do like behind the scenes things. Like last night I stayed up till like 11:30 because that's when I could have undivided attention. So I can do editing, I can do paperwork, I can do all that stuff in the off time. And that, I think, to go back to something you said earlier of like, how do we manage it if we want to do this? It's been easier to be a
Mhm.
homeschooling and entrepreneur parent than it was to go around the public schools schedule. And I just feel like it's easier because it's so much more flexible. We do school when we can do school. I work when I can work. And I know
Mhm.
that's not the same with planting because you have a specific window when you can be out in that field.
We don't
But it's
homeschool during planting season or hunting season.
But we also school year round.
That's,
So
yeah.
if there is a week where we need to have one day of schooling or just take off randomly because of a baseball travel tournament or something,
Hmm.
we get to do that because he's already met his 180 days. And that's the legal requirement for the state of Indiana is 180 days of school year. We've already
Hmm.
met that. And
Yeah.
it's, mid-April at the time of recording this. And so it works for us to do year-round schooling, and I'm not stressed out about it because I know that what he's learning now is much more than what he would have learned at school and then some. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
even though it is challenging because you have to be intentional about your time and your choices, the flexibility outweighs that, at least for
Yeah.
us.
I mean, I know the day that we pulled our kids out, it was like a weight was lifted off my chest. I
Yeah.
knew I would not be getting a phone call that day. We had four kids in school. They were all struggling. That's my listeners have heard it, and you've heard the story. That was when my husband was sick, and I felt maxed out, like between my kids' behavior and my husband's health. And I wasn't even trying to start a business, but I did have a 3-month old.
Hmm.
And the day that we like when that first morning that we didn't have to get up and like walk out the door, and I knew that I wasn't going to be getting that phone call, it was like my whole world like just opened up.
Hmm.
And I mean, my husband, he was even like, nope, I'm not going to homeschool. This is my alone time. This is my free time, you know.
Oh, I
And
miss that. And I want to stop you there because I need alone time.
yes.
Like your girl is so I'm a wanderer in the working genius personality assessment. So there's like Enneagram, Myers-Briggs
Hmm.
disc. I love the working genius. It's more focused on like how you work. I like to have time to sit and think. That's what charges me up and
Yeah.
energizes me. So when people ask me why questions, it's like boom, 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 boom. Like I get recharged. And so if I don't have alone time to sit and think in my thoughts, I know that about myself that that's a quick way for me to get burnt out. And so I think each
That's
of us have to recognize how our cups do get filled and how our cups get drained because each of us are unique. And so I know that about myself that that's what I need and I have to use that time. And sometimes that time is after everybody's gone to bed, even if I'm
yeah.
tired. Sometimes that means I have to lock myself in the bathroom or take a 5 more minute long shower, right? Like I find it where I can. And then I also communicate that with my husband. I'm like, you're off work right now. I need to go be by myself. Give me an hour, and I will be a much better person for you and the kids if you give me an hour to myself. And I have to explain that to him, and he gets it. But because we've had those conversations, we've set those expectations, and I don't abuse that, right? I say, like, just please let me have that. And he's very honorable about it. So, but I have to also make sure I give that back to him, right? You let me know when you need that, and I'm not going to bark at you about it. Like, if you need to go have time with your friends or if you need to go on a fishing trip, I will honor that because I want you to do that back for me too.
That's it. That's such an important one because I feel that guilt to like constantly be there with my family, and if I'm not working, I need to be being there for them.
Mhm.
And but my brain doesn't work right unless I have time for it to grow. And whether that's brainstorming all the things I want to do or absorbing content or, like listening to a podcast while I start seeds or something, or driving to town or just having some quiet time while I drive to town to just think through things. That's what gets my brain boiling. And
Mhm.
I'm in like a season of life right now where like between baseball practice where I have to drive 45 minutes to town and I have to have the kids with me and they're all talking or the kids still are in that place where they come talk to me in the shower and
Mhm.
like because our bathroom is part of the main bedroom, like there's no door to shut. So it's like even if I
Mhm.
don't have the whole family like at the shower, it's like wide open, like they're walking in the bedroom doing stuff and like, oh mom, like do you know where this is? Do you know where that is? And like I can't even listen to like a book in the shower right now. Like
Yeah.
we're in a season of life right now where like I haven't had 5 minutes of alone time in probably 6 months.
Oh, it can be hard, but I will say like I battle with that guilt too because I know that it's fleeting and we had a friend lose their 15-year-old
Mm,
a couple of weeks ago at baseball practice. He got hit in the head with a baseball and it killed him. And so it's like, we go to baseball practice 3 to 4 nights a week right now. And it's like it could happen to us. And it's like this may be the last time. And I don't want to think negatively. And
Hmm.
I lost my oldest sister a couple of years ago. And so it's like this life is so short, and I am constantly battling between I need alone time and you're frustrating me with I also really love you and I'm annoyed with you at the same time. Like it is the constant battle, but I think that if we were never put into these situations, we would never grow and we would never have appreciativeness of anything in our lives because we wouldn't have those feelings. Like that's part
Hmm.
of the human experience. And God doesn't tell us that it's going to be easy. He never says that. And he never says in the Bible that you deserve a full cup either.
No.
What he says is that I will provide for you and I will, give you the opportunity to grow. And when you pray, you like, right? You don't pray for a weaker load of something. You pray for a stronger back. And
Hmm.
so like show me the goodness, show me the purpose of this, guide me and just help me have faith that your plan is better than anything that I could come up with because who am I to think that my ideas would be greater than my creators? And so
Right.
that is something that I struggle with daily, but I just know that it's part of a bigger plan that I just don't comprehend right now.
Yeah, and I think there's actually some beauty in it. That like that not having alone time. I remember when I was talking to you, but someone said recently, like we are a bedroom generation raising a living room, raising living room kids. And
Mhm.
it's because we've changed our mindset that we shouldn't have separate lives from our families. Our lives should be together. And, I say we, like our generation, we came home after school and we went to our bedrooms and we did our schoolwork and we disassociated from our families. And
Mhm.
our kids all want to be with us. And it's a mindset on one, readjusting, how we live our lives with someone in it all the time. But also it's special that our kids want to be there.
How great is it that my kids love me so much that they like I don't know anybody in this world who loves me that much that they want to spend that much time with me. Like none of my friends want to spend that much time with me, but these kids, by golly, they just want to hang all over me. It's because they love me so much. However, I am still Kacee.
Hmm.
And I do desire a few minutes to feel like Kacee. And I think that that is something that I felt guilty about for a very, very long time. And I don't have the right answer, but I'm acknowledging that I don't want to lose my identity as a human being. And I just feel like it's like, oh yeah, but that's not what it's about. That's not
Hmm.
what we're called to do. I'm not meant like that. That's almost what's like idolatry of yourself.
Hmm.
And it's like, okay, Kacee, like, but that's not what you were called to do. You were called to raise good, kind, educated, serving kids, right? Like you want
Yeah.
humans that are good for society, but also kingdom minded. And so
Hmm.
that's the hardest conflict of like the world versus like not, right? And so I don't have the answer, but it is something that I want to start having more and more conversations of, which is why I started my business is I'm not here to tell you I have the answer, but I'm willing to have the conversation.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that with us today. Like I mean, I'm a note taker and like you can see my page. It is full. Um, so one of the things I like to ask everybody at the end of my podcast is what does keep growing mean to you?
Oh gosh, you should have given me a hot minute to think about this before
Nope,
you
that's the
just threw that on
joy.
me. Okay, so the tagline for my business is AgriMinds, where your future takes root. And I mean, I honestly like I didn't understand what it meant when people said personal growth,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I never knew what that meant growing up. And honestly, I don't even remember hearing it if even it was
Yeah.
said. I don't know. But over the last couple of years, personal growth is something that it's like I'm willing to do work and put myself in situations and environments that challenge me, especially within agriculture, right? Because we have this really small community of people who it's traditional and here's the way we've done it. Here's what's worked. Here's what we're comfortable with. Here's what we know to be true. And the moment I stepped out of the agriculture industry and into talking with people in industries like dentistry and real estate and all like random, it's like that, like how is that connected to ag, right? But it's
Mm-hmm.
like the moment you start having conversations with people who aren't like you is when you really start to grow. And that is hard to do. I mean, you have to swallow pride and ego and allow yourself to question if what you have been believing still is going to serve you. And that's the hardest, that's the hardest thing. That's why we talk about mindset in AgriMinds, and that's why I say every time I've had a group cohort, it's been different because different people are coming in with different backgrounds and different belief systems, and I'm like, oh, that's a new one. Nobody's ever mentioned that one before. Nobody's ever had that version before, and that gives me information and I can choose to say, okay, cool, that's great to know. Or I can say, I'm going to allow that to challenge my current belief system and maybe I'm going to do something with that. And that to me is what growth is giving yourself the permission to take in new information and saying, do I want to do something with this?
That's awesome. I always love asking this question because I get something new out of it every single time. And I love that. And that's a big piece of my podcast is helping people grow their own food and grow as a person. So,
So good.
um, you want to tell everyone where they can find you?
Yeah, so Instagram is probably um, the most active outside of LinkedIn. So Ag Coach Kacee on Instagram. I do have a Facebook page, the AgriMinds official Facebook page, and then I'm also pretty active on LinkedIn. I have the AgriMinds podcast, which is just AgriMinds. You can search that on any of your podcast streaming platforms as well as YouTube. So if you like to watch the podcasts, you can watch that there.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing all that information. I absolutely love what you're doing and think that so many people can benefit from your mission. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Kody.
If this episode helped you think differently about food, education, or responsibility, make sure you're following the show. Listen all the way to the end each week and don't forget to leave a review. Agricultural education matters, and it belongs in homes and communities, not just institutions. I'm Kody Hanner, and this is the Homestead Education. Keep growing.